like preparedness and movement of civilian population so that they can execute the attack properly. What role did the world international community and specifically the US played in trying to stop an Israeli attack over Rafah?
Well, there's a lot of behind the scenes pressure about it. And the pressure, I believe the administration said that they wanted a pause. The semantics changed. It went from pause to a ceasefire that can lead to a permanent ceasefire. But remember, the Israeli people want to release whatever hostages they can, and we're willing to do that. Because when I would talk to these soldiers in the field, reservists and regular soldiers, they feel that the IDF has failed in its primary mission to protect its civilians, and they need to get the hostages or as many out as they can. So Israel was willing to pause for a hostage deal, but now that a hostage deal appears to be far away, Israel should have gone into Rafah. Ramadan should not have been the speed bump in the way here. They're using that, and I have to say, evil can be brilliant, and the Hamas leadership has handled this and manipulated the situation so well, to survive. They were really on the ropes, and they've given them some way out at this point of time. And by the way, we don't know. The reports are that the Hamas leadership in Qatar is on the same page as Sinwar and Mohammed Deif, who are supposedly the most true believers, who are still, within Rafah or Khan Yunis. So we're not exactly sure, who is really calling the shots. By the way, just as an aside, getting to Qatar, Qatar has been hosting Hamas, funding Hamas,
right,
training Hamas police, but yet they're a major American non-NATO ally. Doesn't make sense.
Do you see Israel moving forward with such an attack anytime soon, in your estimate?
It depends upon how you define soon. I think that my best guess at this point is they're going to wait till after Ramadan. I think it's a mistake. I think they need to do what they need to do, but I don't see how they can, because they literally, I can tell you from the highest sources without naming anybody, they have not decided on a plan for how to evacuate the civilians. And this is going to be very complex. So that means why I say not soon. I think they have to do that, or else they're going to totally rupture relations with the Biden administration, and they cannot do that. Israel is dependent upon its only friend in the world, the United States.
Right. You're talking about the Rafah border with Egypt, and of course the Philadelphia course. There are reports about the Egyptians prepping some territory there for possible acceptance of Palestinian refugees into a small, very area on the border. Where is Egypt in all of this? Is Israel, according to your impression, strategically consulting with Egypt about such an attack? Because it's going to be on the Egyptian border, and there will be impact on that area as well that will resonate in Egypt.
Egypt is, at least publicly, because you have a virulently anti-Jewish Egyptian populace, is totally against it. Why the Egyptian government doesn't want Hamas have the civilians there who are radicalized? Because they are the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is the arch enemy of the Egyptian government.
Right.
The piece probably 6 weeks ago saying that Israel and Egypt should have come together. Egypt saying it will take half of the refugees, and Israel should have put the other half of its refugees in the Negev in a temporary tent city, to show the Biden administration was willing to take painful choices here, even after October 7th. I thought that would be the best situation to go through. But is Israel talking with Egypt? Absolutely. Does Egypt have preparations if the people start running through and overrunning Rafah? Yes, they do. But that is not the way to handle this, because you do not want to destabilize an Egyptian government of 100 million Egyptians. Imagine remember the Syrian civil war? Imagine 1,000-fold worse if there's destabilization in Egypt, and that very old peace breaks. So this is, I think Israel has not done the best job here, but it's not too late to make some decisions. And today, they should be dealing with the humanitarian situation and have a plan and start moving the civilians out of Rafah.
What do you think about the American administration's plan to establish the sea access for humanitarian aid to Gaza? Is it favorable towards Israel's position, or is it contradictory to Israel's position in the war? How do you see that move?
So I've spoken to COGAT, which is in charge of getting humanitarian aid in. The reason
The IDF, COGAT, just for the sake of our viewers. Israel.
You know, it's interesting. The IDF tells me technically they're not part of them, but that's for a different time.
Yeah, don't believe them. They're always trying to shake them off.
So I've met with them. I've met with them before. They're saying they could move 50 plus trucks an hour coming in.
Right.
And it's not just, they say the bottom line is as soon as the trucks go through, they are being looted by Hamas. But on the other side, is that the human rights organizations that are saying that Israel is deliberately causing a siege and starving them have no infrastructure, and it's way beyond UNRWA to distribute the aid that's going in.
I think we've seen the kind of constructive role that UNRWA is playing in this conflict for years. But Eric, isn't that the question really? Exactly what you just said about not getting the aid to cross the border into the Gaza Strip, but what's happening when it's there? Because if the population has no access to it, and we've seen Hamas people firing and killing, ordinary Gazans to get hold of that aid, isn't that the issue at hand here rather than, because we know Israel has allowed over 16,000 trucks to come in the course of the last 5 months?
Right. There shouldn't be starvation if the people were getting access to it. And also Hamas, by the way, is reselling it up 1,000%.
Reselling it to Gazans. Wow.
Right. So they can, as part of money making to continue their war machine. So I answered your question kind of backwards. You're asking about the port. It's not the port, because there is the aid that can go in. It comes in through Ashdod. It then goes through the Kerem Shalom crossing. It can go in through there are ways to make this happen, or through Rafah, through Egypt itself, but it gets checked by Israel first. It can happen. The port may make it somehow easier, but what happens is they've won here on a diplomatic, or I should say a public relations front, making that Americans have to create this port because Israelis are starving us. And that really is not the truth. There's no interest for Israel to starve the civilian people that are there. So